There you are, sir.
Can't see. There you are. The center of love. Well, good morning, and I welcome each and every one of you to the center of love. Welcome, 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 welcome. And you at home, welcome and welcome. There we go. I feel thorough and complete. I trust you feel welcome. I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to be your host today. And knowing how powerful gratitude is, I now want to bring grateful energy to the center of love and to the goal, vision, and purpose of the center of love, which, if you don't remember, allow me to remind you that our goal, vision, and purpose is to love ourselves, each other, and the world, to lead with love, to heal ourselves and become more balanced, authentic, whole human beings, to live well and support others to do the same, to walk the path of love. So let's take a deep breath and take that in. And listen to it again as I read it again. Really embody this. To love ourselves, each other, and the world, to lead with love, to heal ourselves and become more balanced, authentic, whole human beings, to live well and support others to do the same, to walk the path of love. And there's no greater path of love than the journey of self-love. It is the core, the foundation where it all begins. Anytime, all the time, every time is a good time to focus on self-love. Focusing on self-love has become a huge priority for me. For when relationships end, it's a good time to pause, work on self-love, and being true to ourselves. We know deep within our hearts that it isn't until we love ourselves that we can truly love another. And each time I go around the wheel of love, I get it at a deeper and deeper level. And this time in particular, that lesson is hit home in a way it never has before. And this is why I am so grateful for the timing of Kressa's talk on self-love. Does anybody here know Kressa? No. I mean, does anybody here know Kressa?
Like to think so.
Right? Yeah. Well, let's see. Kressa has a wild variety of careers. Wide. Kressa has a wide variety of careers, including social worker to author to flight attendant. Oh, flight attendant. Now, is that the wild part? Is that like the coffee, tea, or me kind of thing, or Mile High Club? No, not that kind of wild. Okay. Now, one of her passions, though, is working in Africa. She's gone numerous times to support the Maasai people. And one thing you may not know about her is that she went skydiving in her 50s to help release accumulated fear mainly from childhood experiences. Pretty brave. Like jumping out of an airplane was a huge fear. And she felt that if she could do that, then she could accomplish anything. And she can accomplish anything, including talking in front of all you beautiful people. So without further ado, let's welcome, here's Kressa.
So good morning. My talk today is tapping into the infinite well of self-love. I taught stress management in Ontario in the early 2000s, and there were 4 principles I taught. One was taking responsibility, self-awareness, acceptance, and the 4th one was self-value and self-love. This was the most challenging to present, especially when I had a room full of male prison guards. It was very difficult. They looked at me like I was nuts. It seems like a very foreign concept to many people. This lack of value and self-love limit our dreams and squash our potential. It keeps us small. It affects everything we do and all parts of our lives. How many dreams, amazing ideas, new innovations are not realized because of a lack of self-value and self-love? And how much inner anxiety do we create because of this? So there's two quotes that I really like. Every decision you make stems from what you think you are and represents what the value that you put upon yourself. That's by Alan Cohen. I have an everyday religion that works for me. Love yourself first and everything else falls into line. You really have to love yourself first to get anything done in this world. That's by Lucille Ball. That was kind of a cool one. So one situation that really stuck out for me was I was teaching a course in Toronto called Food and Emotions. And most of my students were always females, but on this particular occasion, there was a male. And so we got to the part about self-value and self-love. And you could tell he's antsy in his seat, you know. And so we talked about it, and he shared his story that he had actually had an addiction to alcohol and had changed that addiction to food. And that's why he was at the course. And he said for him, he thought that self-love and self-value was about being selfish. That's what he was taught as a child, that it was selfish to love yourself. And so we talked about it as a group of students about that's not what self-love is, not about the ego puffing itself up. It's about that deep well of honoring who you are. And I think by the end of the class, I think he kind of got it. And I'm hoping that that made a big difference in his life. It was pretty rewarding. And it was really interesting for watching the women. Everybody was crying as he's telling his story. It was pretty cool. So let's talk about food and love. I've actually written a book about it. I'll leave it there if you want to look at it. This can be a very slippery slope. Imagine being rocked by your mom and fed at the same time. Food and love become intertwined and unified experience. When I was recovering from my illness in the early 90s, I had already started studying nutrition. I knew exactly what I was supposed to eat. And I was on a very restricted diet because of the disease that I had. So there was no vinegar, no sugar, no dairy. There were a lot of no's. There weren't a lot of yeses. And so it was really challenging. But I knew that this is what I needed to do to heal. And was I doing it most of the time? No. I was gravitating to my weakness is chocolate. And so that's why I really started, that's what prompted me to write this book, was because I thought, well, I know what to do. Why am I not doing it? But it was more than that. It's about the emotions were kicking in. And again, I still tend to self-love through eating sweets. This has been a lifelong habit of self-comfort. I'm still learning how to balance this in a healthy way. The real journey of self-love, I think, is feeding this temple that we all live in with vibrant whole food. But the ego is a trickster. There is an interesting book on the cravings. This you might want to look out after too. I used to use this a lot with TOPS groups. It's called The A to Z of Cravings and what it means when you crave certain things. And chocolate is about wanting love. And I think the book says it a little bit differently, but from my experience, it was more, let's find chocolate in here. Yeah, chocolate. Wanting more free time and frustrated by lack of love and fun. But I also found when I was doing a lot of work, I did a lot of healing work in Ontario, that it was about nurturance, about nurturing the self. So I think that's kind of, anyway, it's interesting if you want to look at this and what do you crave and what does it mean? Be fun. So another example of providing ourselves with love is looking for it from external sources. How many of us have tended to do that, right? When we rely on external sources for love, for our well-being, we can be disappointed many times. I'm sure many of us have experienced that kind of heartbreak. Quite often, we are looking for someone to fill our own empty places and spaces. I saw this post that I thought was wonderful. In reality, other people liking you is a bonus. You liking yourself is the real prize. And that's so true, isn't it? Relying on external sources for validation can be quite a trap, because if it's not returned, then what happens? we suffer. However, when we come to a relationship with our own cups already full of self-love, then relationships, I think, are much easier. This infinite well of love that resides within every one of us is always there. This is our connection to all that is, to source, to creator, I am, God. Whatever you want to call that pure conscious, that divine intelligence. This love is what created us in the first place, right? Aligning with this infinite love is expansive and limitless. Life sure gives us constant lessons, and learning to be our own source of love, I think, is a critical journey. When our own cup is full, it's easier to give to others without depleting our own resources. Self-love is when we deeply listen to the soul and its urgings. So let's talk about ways to engage in self-love. So the first one, I think, is making life-affirming choices, like letting go of toxic relationships, moving, changing careers. This comes from a deep place of listening to the soul, to a deeper level with one's desires and needs, not from the ego that says, I need another Twinkie to feel better, but from that deep place. I think that's probably one of the most important ones for self-love. Then another one, getting quiet with yourself. One way is meditating, and everybody knows, who knows me knows that I'm a constant meditator every day. And cutting out the noise of the ego so that you can listen to the soul. If your mind is too busy talking to you all the time, you don't hear the deeper level. Watching a sunset, immersing in beauty all around you. And one of my favorites, forest bathing. And Mukti had a really good suggestion about looking in the mirror and saying, I love you. I think that's a great way. Now, this one is interesting. I'm making a list of what you love about yourself and post it somewhere. And even share it with a friend, because that could be a little bit, it's kind of scary thing to do, right? I was reading a book called Walking Each Other Home by Ram Dass. And one of the things he said in it was, make sure you tell people in your life how much you care and value them. And so I started writing little notes and doing some of my art and putting some things that I love about people, close people and my grandchildren, and sending it to them. I had done quite a few of them. And then I thought, isn't that interesting? What about me? What about telling me, what I love about me? And so I did that in my journal, and it was a very cathartic experience. It was good. Breathing is another one, I think, into the heart center with your hand on your chest and feel love. First, maybe you need to start with something easy like a child in your life, and then start to feel the love for yourself. And all your messiness and trauma, just love it all. I think self-care is really important. And I think as moms, I think you probably know that it's hard sometimes to find that time. I remember that as a mom. I think that's one of the reasons I got sick in the first place, was because everybody else came first and I came last. So I think self-care and cleansing and restoring the soul. Right now I engage in many of those. I do chiro, I do massage, I do light therapy with Amanda, which is totally awesome. And also I've used psychedelics with intention. And I think they're very helpful to get to the root of maybe what of our challenges can be. Because I think we are all perfect, except we have some undoing to do. I felt that the first part of my life was creating who I am, and I spent the rest of my life undoing a lot of that. It's like, wow, that's exhausting. So I think psychedelics are a way to go deep down and go, oh, this is a big one that's been hiding. So anyway, that's one way that I offer myself self-love. And then feeding our bodies with really good, whole, vibrant food, I think is a critical way of showing self-love. Last but not least, which is what this is all about, is connecting with like-minded people. People that see your magnificence and who you can share and tell them, you're magnificent, you're magnificent. I think that's really important for self-love, is to create like-minded souls that we can share this journey with. I would like to end now with a poem by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. I've been very fortunate to do some retreats with her. She's from Ontario, amazing lady. And I've done some sweat lodges with her. Oh, they're hard. So this is the invitation. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dreams, for the adventure of being alive. Doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you've touched the center of your own sorrow. If you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it, to fade it, or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with the wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes, without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic, or to remember the limitations of being human. Doesn't interest me if your story you're telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own self. I want to know if you can be faithful and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty every day. And if you can source your life from God's presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the moon, yes! It doesn't interest me where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after a night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done for the children. It doesn't interest me who you are and how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or whom you've studied with. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly love the company you keep in the empty moments. Thank you.
And here we are. Another wonderful celebration at the Center of Love. And so glad each and every one of you are here to participate, and you online as well, to be here to contribute with your presence. There's so many different ways that we can contribute. You can contribute by stepping up to come and be one of the speakers, or to be a host, or to maybe help with the audiovisual. Ideas, your thoughts, your contributions. And another way to contribute is to contribute financially. So we have a donation basket. And if you'd like to do it by e-transfer, there are little papers with the email address. That's just another way of contributing that helps us. We don't have a huge financial requirement. It's a small thing, but there are still expenses and it always helps. So please feel free to contribute in that way as well. It's all over. Okay, well, thank you everyone for being here today. Another great celebration to celebrate, and have a great rest of your day. Have a great 2 weeks until we see you again.